Okay, we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Wheel Talk. Happy birthday, Brittney.
Thank you. I actually kind of celebrated my birthday yesterday, and a few people called me yesterday because they like messed it up. So it's like been a weird thing where people are like wishing me happy birthday yesterday on the wrong day, and then people forgetting it's my birthday today because we celebrated it on the weekend when I was up at my parents' for my grandma's funeral. And so I've had like loads of people on Facebook wish me happy birthday, but like my mom and dad haven't called me yet or anything. And neither of my kids said happy
Aw.
birthday to me, which is funny, but we celebrated it last night. So it's not like hurting my feelings or anything, but it's just been a weird birthday morning, different than what it
Yeah.
normally is.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, well, happy birthday, Brittney. How old are you
Thank
today?
you. I'm 39. So it's my last year in my 30s. And yeah, I feel like getting older is like awesome in so many ways because I feel like you become more centered and more content in who you are, but you also become, at least for me, I have like a bigger drive to like chase things that, are important to me. Um and I was so busy when I was younger, like with the kids and stuff, that I didn't really get chance to think about like what do I want my life to look like when I'm retired and all that stuff. And so now it's like an interesting thing about like trying to plan what the next 20 years of my life is going to look like. And it's fun and also like stressful at the same time. But getting older is cool because, not everybody has the opportunity to do it. And I feel lucky that I've got to be 39. So
That's awesome. What are the goals that you said? Earlier on, you were like, oh, getting older. Think about the
yeah.
goals. What sort of goals do you have?
Well, we can talk about the thumbnail right off the hop with the goals thing because I funnily enough, I over on Thursday, not over the weekend. I was gonna say over the weekend, but on Thursday I did my like Empowered Pair Zoom hangout, which did you try and join? I was like,
Right.
I'm so confused. You have to tell me
Right. So
whether
yeah, you
you
had a Zoom hangout, and I really wanted to do it, but it was at like 2 o'clock in the morning for
I
me.
know.
So
Yeah.
I so I had my laptop open and I clicked on it and but I was like I'll turn my camera off and I'll sort of like I'll chime in and but then I fell asleep. So but then I woke up and you guys were like chatting and I was like nah, it's too late, and then I shut my laptop. So I think I heard you guys say, Fred, are you there? And I was like, nah,
Hey.
I'm like half there. But like yeah, so that was what happened.
Oh,
It was too
okay.
late in the morning, I just yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what time it was, and I was like, "Why is he logging on?" I'm like, "Isn't it like the middle of the night?" I was so confused, and then you didn't say anything, so I was like, "I gotta ask him about that." And then I totally forgot to text you because the next day I was driving up to my grandma's, like to go to my grandma's funeral and stuff, so I was just like so busy. But yeah, interesting. Well, thank you for trying to join my Zoom hangout. It was a good
I
one.
wanted to be a
It's
part of
always
it.
good. Yeah. So we
I
we
didn't
were
want to
talking
miss
about like
out. I wanted to like, all the people that are in the chat. I wanted to be like, oh, what do they look like? What who, what does James look like? What's everyone got to say? I wanted to be there to interact, but to be honest, I was like, I had work the next day. If I didn't have work early the next day, I would have been like, I would have stayed up. And also, it was
yeah.
your birthday hangout. I wanted to be part of it, but yeah, I was asleep. I was zonked out, mate. So that's why I was there but not there.
Yeah. Totally. Totally understandable. We were talking about like 2025 goals, and so I was sharing some of mine, and a lot of them had to do around like being more organized as a content creator and creating a system where I could like batch content and things. And then over the weekend, a job opportunity came up like in the exact spot in my school division that I've been sort of like looking for, mostly a part-time job, because I'm like teaching like the way I do subbing is very like it's always unplanned and it's driving me crazy. So I've been looking for like a part-time job that's more stable. But this job is in an outreach center, and it's for like kids who don't fit traditional schooling. And so like you have to create individualized programming, and you get to work really closely with the families and the parents and the administrators to basically get kids through junior high. And I love these kinds of settings because I'm really good one-on-one with kids. And I think having a visual representation of challenge, like I've obviously had challenges. I have had challenges, different ones than academic ones in junior high. Obviously, I was paralyzed in junior high. So I have some way to connect to kids that are struggling. I have anxiety, and a lot of the kids who don't fit traditional school settings have anxiety or social anxiety or some other thing that they're struggling with. And so I was like, oh my God, this is the job that I would want, but it's full time. And so I'm like really struggling with whether to apply for this job because it's in the specific spot that I want, in like the outreach center that I've been looking for like an opening for a while. There's another place that I want a job too if this one hadn't come up. It's like an academic outreach center for high school, but it's still the same type of thing. And so I'm like, oh my God, now what do? I just made all my 2025 goals around content creation and everything. But then this job came up and I talked to Joe about it and I was like, what do you think? And he was like, I think you'd be great at it. And I'm a little scared about like teaching the content, like the math concepts and stuff, because I've been out of teaching for a long time. So I'm a little scared about that. But yeah, I'm so confused now whether I should apply for this job. And both of my kids were like, no, I do not want you to go to work full time. That is bullshit. Jamie's like, how am I going to get to basketball games after school?
Yeah.
Like they were like both so worried about like all the things that I
How
normally do.
selfless of them.
I know. They were just like, what if I get sick at school? Who's going to pick me up? And I'm like, yeah, I don't even know how people manage that. But yeah, so I'm a little confused. I'm confused, and I don't know whether I'm just like, if this job is distracting me away from what I should be doing, which is like helping people with disabilities and being like a rehab coach and all these lofty goals that I have in that area, or if it's like, it's such a pull because I love kids. And when I teach, I am good at it. Kids really like me and I have a good connection with them. And the reason that I became a teacher was because my dad struggled in school a lot and had really shitty teachers that made him feel bad. And like the first time he ever tried really hard in school and got a really good mark on a test, he got sent to the principal's office for cheating. So like my dad just had like horrible experiences whenever he put effort in. People just didn't believe it was his work. And I never want a kid to experience that. So I love kids who are struggling. And I'm just like, oh, I don't know whether this is like the opportunity that I've been looking for to get into an area of teaching that really feels good to me. Or if it's just a distraction from what I really should be doing. So you let me know what you think.
It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I guess because I did see a little bit of the, in my sleepy haze, your 2025 goal setting, and it was around content creation. And I know that that's really important to you, but everyone wants meaningful work. That's something I've been struggling with recently as well, like meaningful work. To be gainfully employed in something that makes a difference in people's lives is the dream, right? So I guess you got to follow your heart. You got to do some introspection. I don't really have the answer for you, but I think it's a decision that I think either one will be. Can you not balance the two, or would it be too much?
I don't think so. Honestly, like I might be able to do it. Like I was talking to Joe about like I could see if you wanted to change the lives to the weekend. Because I still want to keep doing this, and I probably would continue to make YouTube content when I had time. I just think that it would be a really big push at the beginning for me to kind of get back into the swing of things, because I have to actually create learning like materials for the students. And so that takes up a lot of time. And then I would be marking. Sorry, somebody's trying to Snapchat me. Oh, it was my mom. She's like, right. She's always like perfect timing. But yeah,
you're a bit old for Snapchat. I don't know.
Well, I do. I know it's. I like Snapchat because my parents live on an acreage and their cell phone service sucks, but their internet is really good there. And Snapchat uses internet.
So does
oh
WhatsApp.
My God.
Aren't your parents a bit old for Snapchat?
No, it's just because it's a better messaging app. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to answer this because it's my mom trying to say happy birthday.
Go for
Hello?
it. Go on then.
Oh, I'm going to text her and say, because she's just going to keep calling.
You're live, Mrs. Noonsig. There are literally tens of people watching.
Oh, it's not. My mom is Mrs. Dodds.
Oh, okay.
There's my mom texting. I'm just saying on my YouTube live. She goes, "What are you doing?" Sorry, guys. Okay. I had to do that. My mom was just like every messaging app. She's like, "What are you doing?"
This is how professional we are.
I know.
I should really prioritize content. Content creation. Hi, Mum. Sorry, I'm just live on YouTube.
Okay. Anyway, I don't even know what I was talking about now. My whole train of thought went
Exactly.
like out the window.
It should be on
Totally
Do
out the
Not
window.
Disturb. How unprofessional
Yeah.
of you.
It is on Do Not Disturb. It's just like yeah, anyway.
That's what happened to me the other day. Like, I was recording a podcast with Benji yesterday, and we both had our phones on Do Not Disturb, and then it started ringing mid-podcast, and I was like, what the hell? If Do Not Disturb used to mean Do Not Disturb. Like, what the hell?
Well, it was like ringing because normally it'll it'll just show like the phone thing up in the corner, but it was like my phone lit up and stuff. So anyway, yeah. So yeah, that job thing is messing me up, but
Yeah,
yeah.
that's all right. My mum called a couple of weeks ago, didn't she?
Yeah, she totally did, and you answered it too. So
I did.
Even now.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think I don't know what you got to follow your heart, really. You could balance the two if you stepped back from YouTube a little bit. You don't have to quit YouTube. It's a little bit dramatic.
Yeah.
You could just
Totally, yeah.
make less. You could actually, vlog your experience. Like your videos don't have to take that long. You could just put on the camera and be like, "Hey, listen, I've started my new job. I feel really excited about it. The kids are exciting. These are the challenges I faced this week. These are the rewards. See you next week." I think people would be interested in that side of your life as well.
I never thought about that, like documenting like being a teacher in a wheelchair and how I manage it if I get the job. Like I haven't even like applied for it. I just is there and I know the principal well. And so I'm like, it's also one of those things that, you're like, it's exciting, but also scary. But yeah, I'm going to definitely do some like thinking about it.
Towards the things that scare you.
I know. That's like, at first I was like terrified. I was like, nope, not doing it. All this like individualized programming sounds really complicated. Like I'm going to be responsible for these kids' entire education in junior high. And then I was like, I can do this. Like I did so many cool things. Like when I was in university, like I programmed an entire like summer camp for like all summer. Every camp that kids came through was like my programming and it was awesome. And I didn't even think about it. I was just like, okay. And so I know that I can do it. It's just, I'm scared about the time management with like mom life and all that. But
growth is found outside the comfort zone.
It totally is. And when I was in university, I had Jacob in the middle of university. And funnily enough, after he was born, I got way more done than before he was born. So I seem to be able to manage university with a 10-month-old. So I think I can probably manage the work.
Fine.
Yeah.
I think you'll be fine because once you get structure and routine going, you'll figure it out. Like, you've got Joe as well. I think it'll be fine.
Yeah. I think I'll be fine too. So yeah, I'm gonna definitely think about it, and I'll probably
should apply for the job.
Yeah, I'm gonna apply for it.
Apply for it. And then if you don't get it, then that's just the universe saying, "Oh, it wasn't meant to be."
Totally, that's helpful.
Yeah, we could do lives at the weekend, and like I say, like even coming on here and doing and turning up every week. We're creating content every week. We've got a great engaged audience that seem to enjoy our content, and this is like a nice way of like keeping up to date with what's going on. So even if I don't think there will probably be a lot of people that will miss a regular video, but I think everyone wants the best interest for you, and if you want to grow and expand, and you can always come back to YouTube, and you've got like a good base. You've got like a good community going, and like I say, little vlogs, little updates would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that actually helps. I never thought about the actually like documenting that part of it. So yeah, that's cool. How is your?
Tell you, actually, this is really random, but I watched one of your videos the other day while I was on the toilet. I was doing a poo, and I've got a Peristine system. Like I've never used it, but Peristine is like the anal irrigation.
We should talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've never tried it, so I was having a bit of constipation, so I was like, I'm gonna look at the Peristine how to do it because I've never used it. And then your video came up like how to poop better, and I was like, oh well, I'll listen to this while I'm doing a poo. And then I was like, oh, this is really informative. All the insoluble fiber, soluble fiber. I was like, wow. I was like, mate, you really know your poo. You really know your shit.
That's really funny. I have over the years struggled so much with constipation that like now I can basically tailor the consistency of my stool, which is like really disgusting, but
Wow, that's
it's
awesome.
I feel like it's a life skill that is very valuable if you have a spinal cord injury. The parastine thing though, you should try it and then document that, cuz it is one of those things that I think some people use it and love it, but nobody's really talking about it, especially on YouTube, other than
Mm,
Coloplast.
yeah,
But
maybe
not from
I'll
like a
vlog it for
yeah,
the Patreon. Here we
you
go, ladies
should.
and gentlemen. Whoop.
I did a whole poo video where it was just my head up, but I was actually pooping.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think I've been thinking about vlogging while doing a poo, like, because I
Do
got
it,
time
yeah.
in there, and I'm just like, just to be like, whoop.
You
No, well,
should.
I don't know. Maybe for the Patreon, I don't know, but like, yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's just weird, but I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
if you feel comfortable doing it, then maybe I could do it. But
Yeah. I
yeah,
think I
it's
think you could
interesting.
probably do it.
Yeah,
Something
so the Peristine thing, I've been tempted to try it because as I've been over Christmas and stuff, I've been letting my diet get away from me. I've lost
mm,
my streak on the app, for example, and yeah, I've definitely been sort of, I guess you could call it bulking season. I've put a little bit of extra layer on, and yeah, my poo has suffered. And I was thinking the other day, I was like, man, I want to try this Peristine just for funsies, just to like,
yeah.
get it up there and see what happens. But not tried it yet. And I think, yeah, if I do, it's probably be a good excuse to make some content and it'll be fun.
Yeah. I think so. I just wanted this comment here that said I saw your 6-year video, Fred, it was profound. I watched that. It was really good.
That's a
I
kind
love that you
compliment.
had like the questions and all of the lessons that you've learned, especially from such a like you kind of bridged the perspective of like where you came from and how things look now, because I think a lot of people when they watch those videos when they're newly injured, they just see like all the everything's great and everything's fine, instead of going like, of course you're not going to feel like this right now, and of course everything's still going to feel hard. So I love that you kind of address that part of it, because there's nothing worse than being on the other side of all of the struggle and then just sort of forgetting how hard it was at the beginning. Yeah, good video.
Thanks. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I do one every year. I actually watched my one from 5 years ago and I was like, oh, that was way better. It was so much more professional. There was loads more B-roll. It was so much more engaging. This one, in fact, Benji nailed it. He was like, you got your questions from ChatGPT and you had a gummy. And I was like, yep. I
That's
was
so
like,
funny.
I had a gummy and I was like, oh, you know what? I'm feeling like I'm just gonna, because I was thinking about like how I was asking ChatGPT some
Yeah.
questions and some feedback, and I was just like, when the gummy kicked in, I was like, I'm just gonna turn the camera on. I feel like I'm in the zone. I'm just gonna nail it, and it was just one take, and I was like, yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's good enough. I just wanted like a stream of consciousness. I didn't really want to have a script or so, it just felt like I just want conversational content, and everyone seemed to really enjoy that. And I was like, yeah, I think that's sort of my style. I kind of think the script and structure works really well, but then sometimes, I just feel I can just talk for 20 minutes
Yeah.
and it seems coherent enough to make a decent video. I knew what I wanted
Yeah.
to say, so I just went for it.
Yeah. And I think that's like I don't know, like polished videos that are scripted are somebody's style. Like a girl that I follow that's a YouTube tips kind of person. Hers are all very scripted. She has a different shot for like every sentence. Like it's crazy. And that's great. Her video style is awesome, but I'm like, it's exhausting to film videos like that. And it's so much more authentic if you just speak. And
Mm.
sometimes it's not as articulate, but it's easy to follow as long as you're, being genuine and you have a point. If you're just blabbering on and you don't have a point, then it's shitty. But when you have a point, like you said, you know what you wanted to say and you just said it, it's better, I think, and more like it connects you to the audience better. So yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want
Um
it to feel too artificial and scripted. I had some prompts, like I had the
yeah.
questions, and then it kind of, like I say, I didn't really know. I didn't know that I was gonna talk about how hard it was for me and the snowfall.
Mhm.
Like that just came out
Yeah.
because that was on my mind. I spoke about it on the
Yeah.
podcast, and I was just like, well, that's real. That is how I feel right now. Like I don't want to,
Yeah.
carefully curate this content, which makes it
Yeah.
seem like being in a wheelchair is just, amazing, because sometimes it's
Mhm.
really bloody hard, and that's how I feel. So yeah.
Yeah. And I also think there's this like notion of toxic positivity where
Mm,
like there's toxic negativity where you're never positive, but then there's also toxic positivity where like you berate yourself every time you feel anything negative and you're like, "Oh, like, get over it." Like gratitude, positivity, everything instead of that like simple bit of acknowledgement that like, "Man, this is really hard." Like, man, I feel like every once in a while like I just sit there and think like I'm never going to go hike that
mm,
mountain or whatever. I'm not going to get to do that in this lifetime. And that's hard. Like that's a heavy thing. Especially when you're like, contrasting the life that you used to live in Morzine to now because it's very
mm,
different the things that you could do and like you say the vitality that you felt in the
mm.
wintertime because it's very different now. And also not that you don't feel positive or alive. It's just that the things that you do to, get that adrenaline pumping is very different.
Yeah. You make a really good point, because I was thinking earlier how earlier this year we were saying, "Oh, what's your favorite time of year?" And we were like, "Oh, Christmas." And then I was like, "This
Yeah.
Christmas has been very challenging." And I don't know why I said Christmas is my favorite time of year. I think the idea of Christmas is really
Yeah.
beautiful, but then when it comes round to it, this year it didn't really live up to the expectations that I had of, you get kind of caught up in like, I think thinking about Christmas is way better than Christmas.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just like, oh God, especially with the snow and everything. This year it was particularly challenging for me. And yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I think I said it all really in the video. But yeah, it's just, this year's been a bit rubbish. Like the winters getting me down. I haven't been able to get out to get fresh air and exercise as much. And oh yeah, I
Mhm.
woke up this morning. I got bloody tennis elbow. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Oh, yep. I've had
Yeah,
tendonitis. Like tennis elbow is a form of tendonitis, and I've had tendonitis off and on for years.
yeah.
It's horrible.
So I don't know how I got it. I'm pretty sure I got it from going in the gym. I asked ChatGPT about it, and it was saying most likely I got it from doing pull-ups. And yeah, I just woke up and I didn't know what tennis elbow was. I thought it was quite a funny thing, like, oh, tennis elbow, that sounds funny, but
Yeah.
it's actually extremely painful and
It's
uncomfortable.
so
And it's
painful.
basically this pain here in this part, and it compromises your grip strength. In fact, it's loads better than when I woke up this morning. I woke up this morning, I was in so much pain, but basically it feels so much better now. I feel like odd complaining about it, but this morning for hours I was in a lot of pain. I did look at some YouTube videos about doing some physio exercises, and it seems to
Mhm.
have loosened up a lot. But it was a huge pain just here in my forearm, and yeah, compromised grip strength. I couldn't like squeeze my fist without a lot of pain. And
Yeah.
when you're getting your wheelchair in the car, like this movement was like, oh, really painful.
Mhm.
And I was just really, I woke up quite grumpy because my spasms were quite bad. Then I had obviously this forearm pain, this tennis elbow, and I've just been feeling lately like a little bit grumpy, like moody, and
Mhm.
I don't like that about myself. I feel like I really need to take some time to recalibrate my. And I messaged you earlier saying, "Oh, can we do the podcast tomorrow?"
Yeah.
And then I was like, actually, I looked at my Patreon, and there were some messages from people on the Patreon, and I was like, oh, you know what? They were like, oh, I listen to you every week, and I thought, oh, I feel like I'm not going to sack it off because I don't feel like it. I want to turn up because there's people that are expecting us to, and just because I don't feel
Yeah.
off, like, so actually, I meditated for ages. I like really sat there and meditated for ages, and surprise, surprise, I felt loads better afterwards. And I was just like, oh, you know what? Life isn't too bad. Let's go and let's do the podcast today, and it was good. And on that subject, actually, we're doing the meditation challenge. But
Yeah. I'm really enjoying the meditation challenge. I'm a few days behind just because when I was at my parents for my grandma's funeral, there was a whole fiasco. So we'll talk about that a little
mm,
bit. But I'm really liking the meditation structure because one thing I don't know if it like for beginners, he leaves a lot of blank space. And for a
mm,
beginner meditator, they might feel uncomfortable with so much dead space in his videos. So that's the only thing that I can think of that might be like a little bit difficult for somebody who's not used to meditating. Like sometimes I'm like, I check to see if my phone turned off because I'm like, is he coming back? And so I have to just like now that I know that's just how he does it, like he talks and then leaves a lot of blank space. But I got to I think I was on day 4 when he said that frustration or whatever is just as good a thing to focus on as any. And I love
Mm,
that. I love it so much. So I had like a really bad headache in like the back of my head. And I was literally just meditating on that pain. And it was amazing. I was just sitting there focusing on one central thing, even if it's not a good thing, is not something that I've ever heard in any other meditation training or anything. And because a lot of the times you're focusing on something passive like breathing or whatever, and sometimes because I have like a body focused like anxiety kind of thing, so if I focus too much on my breathing, then I get it like bothers me, and then I can't stop thinking about my breathing during the day. So sometimes I have to not focus on those kinds of things. But yeah, it was cool to just focus on this pain. I was like, it's bothering me. This pain is irritating. So I was just like, all of those thoughts that were coming up, I was just like, there's a thought, let it go.
mm,
Go back to the pain. There's a thought, let it go back to the pain. So it was interesting. And so now I'm going to practice when I'm really like feeling grumpy or not good. I'm just going to focus on that thing, like that resentment or whatever, because it actually made it better. Like my headache almost entirely went away after, even though I was focusing entirely on the pain, but I was releasing what my brain was like, all of the negative thoughts my brain was coming up with about the pain. And I think that's what made the pain go away after, was that I wasn't attached to how it was making me feel
mm.
emotionally.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Sam is also, I don't know if you've noticed, but he's very precise with his language. He's so
Yeah.
eloquent. He's like, a mind like a clenched fist is as good as any for a focus for meditation. And I was like, yeah, that's,
Yeah.
but what I struggle with is I want to feel good when I meditate. Afterwards, I want to be like, oh, amazing. I've let go of my stress. He says, it's not an executive stress ball. It's a tool to discover more about your
Hmm.
mind. And I kind of want it to be a stress ball. I want it to be
Yeah.
something where I do it and I can feel the benefit of it straight afterwards. And he says that's not the point. And I'm like, I get that that's not the point, but that's what I want from my meditation experience, like regardless. And it does seem to have that. But if I had the experience recently, I was really grumpy and I just spent 10 minutes just lost in thought, just really resentful of something that happened. And I thought, yeah, I don't like it. I want to let this go.
Hmm.
I guess it's not the point of meditation, but I guess it's
No.
what I want from it. And I'm struggling with that at the moment. The other thing I'm struggling with was I had the best intentions of like doing it every day. And especially as like, I thought, we'll get on the Patreon. And I started the first couple of days and I did not foresee myself slipping behind with the challenge. I'm like, I've got plenty of
Hmm.
time. I can do it every day. Two things I've been struggling with: doing it and the fact that it's on my phone. And so I said on the
Hmm.
Patreon that I thought doing it first thing in the morning is a lot better for me. Again, better because my mind seems a lot clearer. But sleeping with my phone next to my bed and seeing as the app is on my phone, you can see where I'm going with this. Immediately,
Yeah.
like after I stop meditating and I'm in my bed and my phone is in my hand, even though I'm meditating and I'm supposed to be thinking about my thoughts, I'm thinking about like, oh, the next thing I'm gonna do on my phone, or like just I don't know. It's just so I've been really struggling with it. Then like putting my phone in another room, which is a really good habit of mine, so I don't sleep. I don't wake up with my phone next to my bed because I'm an absolute phone addict. Then I don't know, and then just sort of because my phone's not there, I've been like skipping it and not having enough time. And the reason I don't have enough time is because I've not been going to bed early enough. One of the reasons was I stayed up silly because I was trying to get to your live stream. But there's no other excuse. There's other
Yeah.
excuses that I've just been staying up late, and that is on me. Like I go to bed
Hmm.
late, and then I feel shit in the morning, and I've just struggled. And yeah, I just want to be completely upfront and honest. I had not foreseen this happening. I thought I was going to do it every day, update the Patreon every day. Oh, come on, everybody, and I've slipped behind, and I think that's really natural. So if you are doing the meditation challenge and you've slipped behind, don't feel too bad because
Yeah.
I did it too, and I feel it sucks, and I feel bad about it.
Yeah. I think that's it's a great thing to talk about, that because, so many people focus on the perfection. And if they slip, then I'm done. I've gone 3 days without doing the meditation. I don't need to do it anymore. I've failed. And that's such a dangerous mindset. So just start again and don't
Yeah.
start at day one because that's too much.
Yeah.
Just start again in whatever day you're on, and it'll be fine. Like the universe isn't going to collapse around you. And I think like that's what like a lot of people's problems is with like eating healthy and stuff because it's just like I'm going to start 2 weeks from now and then they're going to like eat up all the junk in their house, or I have to have my last junky meal before I start again. And I slip into that mentality a lot with like healthy eating. I'll be like, I'm never eating chocolate again, never, I hate it. And then I'm like, I actually do really like chocolate, so I'm going to eat it again. And then I'm like, if I'm eating it, I may as well eat a lot of it. And instead of just being like, I'm going to have a few pieces of chocolate every day. And the best I ever did with moderation was when I ate chocolate every single day because I
Mm,
knew I could have my 2 squares of chocolate tomorrow. It wasn't
yeah.
like, oh, I have to eat all of this chocolate because I can't ever have it again. And so I think, yeah, just moderation and having a little bit of grace for life as it gets in the way. But yeah, I'm exactly like you. The times that I get so frustrated at myself are when I unnecessarily waste time and then don't have time for the things that I actually want to do because I've wasted time doing stuff that's unproductive and not in any way going to help me, which is like scrolling and stuff like that. So
Mm,
yeah, it's such a weird thing. I'm like that with any kind of addictive sort of like substance. I don't drink, I don't do any other thing because I have the same feeling that you have towards phone use with any of that stuff. I feel like just over I don't know, it's just weird. Which is dumb because I don't need to berate myself about enjoying life, right? But I
mm,
do in almost
yeah.
every way. So, yeah, the meditation challenge is yeah, I'm a little behind, but we'll get back to it and we're going to keep updating people on the Patreon once we do get back to it. So,
Yeah, yeah. And to be honest, like I say, I was having a really tough time today with tennis elbow, and I still think that's a funny name for it. But just other personal challenges. And then I was like, well, I'm going to catch up on the meditation challenge because the sun was, and I've been feeling bad about like not going out because it's sunny, but it's also snowy. So luckily, I've got, one thing I'm really grateful for is south facing windows. So I opened the window, had the sun right on my face, and I was like, well, this is the perfect time. I meditated for like 30 minutes. I caught up
oh,
on all the days that I hadn't done. And surprise, surprise, I felt so good afterwards. That's when I messaged you back and say, let's do the podcast.
yeah.
I feel better now. And yeah, it was really wonderful. And again, like I say, I know it's not the goal, but I absolutely love the side effect of feeling so much better after just sitting there. And also, it's just the fact that I'm disconnected. I'm not listening to a podcast. I'm not scrolling on YouTube. I'm
Mhm.
just sitting there and being like, oh yeah, like my mind is like a clenched fist. And that sucks, but it's okay. And then I just feel the sun on my face. And that like is quite a nice
Mhm.
way to release endorphins naturally. And then I just felt like a hell of a lot better. And I was like, oh, wonderful. That's what I wanted. So thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm gonna catch up after this on the days that I missed over the weekend. This is a good segue into the shift in perspective. So I'll share my like funeral fiasco with you guys and talk
Oh,
about
please do.
sort of the stressful thing that sort of happened, and then it all turned out totally okay. I was asked to help with the eulogy for my grandma. My aunt asked me to help, but we didn't really talk before I came up to my parents' house, and so I misunderstood what kind of help that she wanted. And because she had like written the eulogy in sections and like assigned my name to certain sections, and then said like, can you please look at it, edit whatever you want, and then send it back to me. Edited a part of my section just to say something that reflected my perspective more clearly about my grandma. And then I sent it back to her, and it caused this like huge upset because she had really like taken the time to like write those words, and she was really connected to a one word that she had chosen to describe my grandma. And then my dad, after I had written my section, got really connected to what I wrote about my grandma, and that's his mom. So then he was like kind of not going at it with his sister, but they were really like in a battle, like this word is better, this word is better. And I was like, oh my God, guys, like it doesn't matter. Like who cares? I'm like, just get rid of what I wrote. I didn't realize that I was only supposed to edit grammatically. And so it was like it
Oh,
was so stressful to me. Um, and to her and to everybody, because it was just like, oh my God, now this whole thing is turning out to be something we didn't want it to be. And then she ended up just saying, I'm just going to read the eulogy on my own now instead of me and my other cousins reading it with her. And so I was like so upset about this whole situation because I thought I had just unintentionally created so much drama and hurt before my grandma's funeral. Like this was like 12 hours before the funeral. And I was like, oh my God. And so I went to bed. I didn't sleep like at all. And my dad was like so worried about how the funeral was going to go because he had been not arguing, but like really in this like battle with his sister about like this word's better, this word's better. And then my aunt delivered, I'm going to cry about it, the most beautiful eulogy like ever. She did such a good job. And my dad was so worried about it. And like after she gave the eulogy, my dad got up like in the middle of the funeral, just walked right to the front and like gave my aunt like the biggest hug. And it turned out so good. Sorry, I'm like really getting emotional about this, but it turned out so good. And so I didn't sleep like at all night thinking that I had ruined something. And it turned out to be the best because my aunt delivered it in a way that I could never have talked about my grandma in. Like it was just so good. And so I was like, sometimes the things that you think are you worried are like awful just end up being so good. And it was just this massive like visible shift in perspective of my dad, like when he was watching his sister talk about his mom in such a beautiful way, and like the love that they had for each other, even though the night before they were like, you know, really battling it out. It was just amazing. So it's just a cool shift in perspective. And like, you know, how this morning you were kind of pissed about just life in a wheelchair, and then you take a minute and most of what we're super worried about turns out to be fine. But anyway, I wanted to share that like that experience because it was so profound for me, because I was like, it felt like the worst experience ever for like, you know, 13 hours. And then at the funeral, it was like amazing. And then after, like, I just went, hugged my aunt, and she was like, I love you so much. Like, don't worry about it. It's fine. We were all just stressed about the eulogy and making it great. And it turned out fine. And so anyway, it was a really cool experience. Not the night before, but at the
Yeah.
funeral, I was like, wow, it turned out so much better than I could ever have done it with her. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's sweet. That's a sweet story. And you showed some real emotion there. I thought I was gonna cry then. That was
Sorry, I was
lovely.
like, I tried not to get emotional about my grandma's funeral and stuff, but she was such a cool, amazing woman and like loved music. And then my sister and my brother and I, we sang at her funeral, and like music we got from her. My dad got from her. My dad is like really musical, and my brother got that from my dad, and me and my sister can both sing. And so it was really cool. Um, just she was just such a cool person. Like she was just such a cool, neat lady. And we're all gonna really miss her. But yeah.
Oh, that sounds really cool. It sounds like she was well loved.
Oh yeah. She was like her funeral was small because, you know, a lot of her friends and stuff are dead. But
Wow,
it
yeah.
was a beautiful funeral. It was a beautiful funeral. We had our immediate family there and like my aunts and uncles and stuff. And then a lot of my family from my mom's side came, and then they spent the night at my parents. And my family again is really musical. My mom came from a really musical family too, and my grandma on my grandma that just passed away and my mom's dad were really good friends, and they were both very musical, so they played music together all the time. And so growing up, I saw my mom and dad's families all together for music all the time, and then we stayed up till like midnight playing music like guitars and singing and stuff just in
That's
my mom's
cool.
living room. So it's a very cool, I don't know how many families do this, but I feel very blessed that it's something that
Yeah.
we do in my family. And it's just fun.
Were
It's
you
so
jamming?
fun. Yeah, like my dad plays guitar, and he's used to just this is what my dad's like my mom's family and my dad's family did growing up. Like they would just play songs, and somebody will just be like, "Let's sing this song," and my dad will just play it. Like he'll just I don't know how he does
Yeah.
it. He just can play almost anything.
That's
And
so
so
cool.
yeah, so we sing just country songs or whatever songs, mostly country because that's like my family is very like, you know,
Yeah.
country, but yeah, so we did
That's
that.
so rad.
Yeah, it
I
was
love
awesome.
musical people who can just pick up and play. And when you all get together, they're like, it's like a different
Yeah.
language. They're speaking a
Yeah.
different language and they're just communicating effortlessly. Like, when you see people and they just look at each other and you're like, okay, it's like key change or something
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. And like now we're going to end, and it's just, I love that sort of like non-verbal communication. It's
Mhm.
awesome, man. Like that sounds so cool. Yeah, feel like you're really lucky to have grown up in an environment like that.
Yeah, I feel super lucky. I was just talking to my cousin because our Christmases, my grandpa was like even more musical than like my dad is. And my dad's really musical because my grandpa could play like a violin, piano, guitar, saxophone, like accordion. My grandpa could just play like anything. And so I grew up with Christmases being him like leading Christmas carols like in the living room or playing like the fiddle to entertain everybody. And I didn't know that it was not the way people celebrated Christmas until I was like older. And I'm like, what? You guys don't sing Christmas carols on Christmas Eve? And people are like, no, and some people play do other things like do puzzles or play games. And it's great. It's just, I really miss it. And I was talking to my cousins because we used to go to my grandma's and do that. And she was like, we miss that so much because nobody's really musical in their families. So, um, yeah, it's interesting. But I'm very blessed to have grown up in a family that did that.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, that you are lucky. You are lucky. That is lovely. It sounds like your family is just like quite loving as well. Like with the whole
Mhm.
funeral, there seems to be a lot of love and emotion there. Lots of release of emotion as well. It sounds like quite a cool experience to have. I know it's like a little bit bittersweet because you're saying goodbye to
Mhm.
someone, but at the same time, you're celebrating their life. And
Yeah. It
I
was
think if your grandma could have seen it, she would have been really happy.
Oh, she would have been super proud. Yeah. I'm going to put on my Patreon the video of me and my sister and my brother singing at the funeral. So you guys can head over
Yeah, do
there.
that.
I'll put it for all members so that everybody can see, but I just don't want to I don't know. I don't know why I feel weird about putting it on social media. I feel less weird putting it on Patreon cuz I like you said people are supportive and non-judgmental and yeah. Plus my
I
brother's
know
also
exactly what
really
you
like
mean.
yeah, my brother's not big on social media, so I'll put it on my Patreon just because it's more private. But I want to talk about this accessible housing thing before we like go because I did have that in the thumbnail or in the description title, whatever, for the video. So last time I talked about meeting, or actually I didn't. It was in the Zoom thing again. So the Zoom thing I had talking about goal setting. Maybe I talked about it on here. I don't know. I can't remember. But I talked about wanting to buy an investment property to improve accessible housing in my area. And so I've been looking at ways to do that. And I met with like a developer that builds accessible housing. And he is currently working on like a 5 unit, fully barrier free, multifamily, like apartment complex, essentially, a small one, kind of like what you live in,
Mhm.
Fred. Um, and it was appalling the crazy stuff that is stopping him from building this building because in our area the building bylaws and codes have very specific narrow rules about what you can build. And so he's building a 5 unit apartment complex and he's building it in a way that allows him to have one unit on the floor that's entirely barrier free and then the other units are up higher, but he just wants one elevator so that it's more cost effective and he doesn't have to put elevators in every unit.
Mm.
And they like the city is just like stopping him at every like turn. They're just like, nope, that design doesn't fit our rules about what you can build. And he's like, because they want him to build like tall and skinny, but he's like, if I build that way, then I'm gonna have to put a elevator in every single unit, and that's gonna take away all the square footage in somebody's house, and b like increase my costs by like
Mm.
$100,000. And he's like, that doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't we just build it this way and have one elevator, even though the footprint of the building is the same? So like it's the
Yeah.
same like size, like height, everything. And then he was like, he's gone to like the mayor and everything to say like the building bylaws are discriminatory. Like he's like, you're not allowing, nobody's going to build a building that they can't build profitably. Like if he can't sell it or sell it for what he built it for, because housing prices are a certain sort of range in our area. And if he can't rent it for what the rent is and still like sort of recoup some of his costs, he's just like, he's losing so much money, and he's doing it anyway because he's like he's passionate about accessible housing. But I didn't realize why we have such like little accessible housing in our area. And now I'm just like pissed about it, because I'm like, they're making him do his building as a commercial building, even though the same number of units that wouldn't be accessible is considered residential housing. So he has to have like his own sewer system and like all these other things that are crazy and that cost way more money, even though he has the same number of units, they're just accessible. And they want him to like take out a curb cut because it's in the wrong area, and have to require the people that are living in the building to wheel all the way down to the end of the street to get on the sidewalk. Like, it's so stupid, the things that they're doing. But anyway, I just wanted to chat about that. And I don't know if anybody has experience with like having challenges with building accessible housing in their area, but it's no wonder we have such limited amounts of accessible housing if they make it that hard. It's crazy.
Sounds like overregulation. Doesn't make sense to me, but I guess they were probably put in place for the best intentions, but by people that don't have realistic views of the world, and how things work.
Or they just don't have they don't have a disability. And so all the people making the bylaws just sort of, it's an oversight. And then when you want to change the plans to build what is accessible that doesn't fit the rules, instead of changing the rules, they're like trying to fit him into a box over in the commercial area of real estate that he doesn't really fit in either. So anyway, it's just really frustrating.
Couldn't he just make accommodation and not have it like accessible? Just make accommodation and then just like have it accessible, but not advertise it as accessible. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I kind of asked about that. I was also like, well, couldn't you just make one unit accessible? Like, I was like, just make the bottom level accessible and entirely barrier free. And then just don't put the elevator and make the other ones not accessible. But he's really like passionate about the accessible. So I'm like, that was just kind of like, I don't know whether you're actually making it worse or better by going too far in your first build and pushing the limits of like what the actual regulations and building bylaws allow. But yeah, I'm not entirely like
more sense to have just like if you had the ground floor accessible or like a couple of places accessible, that would be great. Otherwise you just have a building full of wheelchair folk, that could also be quite cool, like a little community. But I think it would be cool to have some able-bodied folk to be a bit more diverse.
That's what I said. I was like, I love that you're building a entirely barrier-free building, but I was like, the best way to change people's hearts and minds is to stuff people together and force people to talk to each other. And not that they're going to talk to each other, but if you live in one complex, you're generally probably going to talk to somebody that's in the wheelchair if you're able-bodied. And then you might learn some stuff about, people with disabilities and befriend somebody with a disability. So then you're going to care more about the outcomes for people with disabilities. But yeah, so I wasn't sure about his entire like plan. Again, he's an able-bodied person with no experience or really connection to anybody with a disability. He just kind of latched on to accessible housing. And I asked him how he did that. And he was like, well, I was really just trying to to niche down to something that would give me an advantage. And then he was like, I realized that accessible housing is really not that big of an advantage if it's hard to build. But he's like, then he got kind of passionate about it because it was so hard. And it's just a challenge that he's like sort of dug into now. But yeah, so I think if I end up building something with him as the developer, it's going to be partially accessible and partially not accessible. Because
how are you getting involved with it?
I'm not like, it would probably be me talking to a couple of friends to build up enough money to be able to do it. But we would just hire him as a developer, like the contractor to build the thing. And then for me, I would probably just rent the units out. And
nice. That's pretty cool.
Just make sure that I just want to improve accessible housing in my area and also have like an investment that will allow me to like, build some income in retirement. But I have no idea. Like I said, at this point, it's more about like figuring out how much money you need to do this kind of stuff, talking to some friends who currently are in wheelchairs and have real estate investments, to even see what's possible and then kind of go from there. But you don't like, you never know until you try, right? So at this
Yeah.
point, it's just about saving some money and figuring out how much money I can contribute to the project and then seeing how much it's going to cost. But it's a lot, I think. Like, I think he
Mm.
was saying his building is like 1.2 million or something. The budget is, but that's fully accessible, which is like, it's a crazy amount. So if I wanted to build like a fourplex or something, it's going to
Yeah,
be a
yeah.
lot probably, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe just start with a duplex.
Yeah, something like that.
That would
That's
be
kind of
quite
the other
cool.
thing that he said. Yeah, a duplex or something smaller.
Yeah, and also I think well, do you know what? I think I would love it if people did that around here. If there was someone passionate about making accessible housing here, because I'd love, like I mentioned before, I have to move out of this place. I love it here. I do. I really love it. It's such a beautiful apartment, but yeah, it's quite rare to find a place like this with a nice ramp, that my landlady
Mm.
built. And this isn't like an accessible place. It's just, a
Yeah.
normal place which I live in. It's just a ground floor flat, which makes me think I could live in any sort of ground floor flat, really,
Yeah.
because I'm quite capable of making it accessible. But then I looked at some places recently and they didn't look like, for example, if it's got a shower cubicle, like
Mm.
it's not really also if it's a rental, I don't know. I would just like I would love to find the dream home for Chris and I, but it would, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Hopefully something will come up. I feel, when you have like analysis paralysis, you're like, I don't know where to start. Like I've put something on Facebook, like the Facebook group
Yeah.
of Morzine, that we're looking for someone and somewhere. And then I think I might have mentioned to you that we met this lady who works in the real estate, and she was like, "Oh, I saw your post on Facebook. My dad was in a wheelchair. I'm really looking out for a place for you because,
Oh.
your post really spoke to me." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. That's great." But at the same time, I don't really know what else I can do. I feel like I should be doing more, but I don't really know what to do next. There are
Mhm.
some things, but I've just been procrastinating, and yeah, I think
How
that's
long do
yeah.
you guys have? When do you have to move out?
Well, I have to move at the end of the winter, like April, May time.
Oh, so yeah, like you don't have like a lot of time. It is really, it's really frustrating. And not that like I've never really lived in accessible housing either, because I'm pretty
Mm,
good at making it accessible. And there are like more wheelchair friendly designs than others, right? So there's certain types of bathroom layouts that are more wheelchair friendly than others. And we tend to make those work. And that's kind of like, not that I don't want to have like the fully barrier free apartment experience or whatever if I were to ever to rent things like that, or even live in one, but it's not something I need. And
mm,
I don't think it's something that a lot of people need. And so I think having a basic level of accessibility is important, but going overboard sometimes just takes away the ability to rent the space to people that don't need that full amount of accessibility. But yeah, I think any ground floor like apartment or I don't like we call them condos here, but ground floor condo apartment, whatever would work for you. Or even
yeah,
like we call them bungalows. Is that what you guys call bungalow? Like a house that's like just one level?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I'd love a
that's
bungalow. It'd be great. That's the dream. The problem is, I don't know if you saw on the news recently that the Vail resort, I think it's in Colorado, the Vail ski resort, a lot of the staff members went on strike because of pay. They wanted like an extra couple of bucks of an hour, and the queues for the lifts were enormous. There were like literally thousands of people trying to get on the lift because the staff were on
yeah.
strike. And the reason that they were striking was because the accommodation in Vale is so expensive that the staff members can't afford to live there. And what's happening in
Oh,
Morzine is a little bit analogous to that, really, where there's loads of new builds and they are stunning, but they're so expensive. So all the local people here are being priced out of the local housing because the property prices are astronomical. So unless you're like buying a fixer upper or like you live like 10 miles down the road, you can't really afford to live here anymore.
yeah.
So I'm thinking, I'd love to find the dream home for me and Chris, like a lovely little bungalow somewhere. But then more and more, that is becoming a pipe dream, something that is not going to be really realistically within our price range whatsoever. Which
Mhm.
which I think would be amazing if something did come up. But we're not really in I guess the right financial state to be
Mhm.
looking to buy a place. So
Yeah.
it'll be renting a place, and then finding the right place and just sort of when there's already such a demand for housing. When you narrow down the fact that it's got to be wheelchair accessible and the fact that we've got a dog, like dog friendly, cat friendly, wheelchair accessible, it makes it even like the search even more narrow, which makes it a little bit daunting, to be like, oh God, like where am I going to find a place? I was so lucky to find this place. And I don't want, and also you get accustomed to a certain level of a standard of living. Like I love this place, south facing windows, beautiful views. It's a really, really lovely place. I don't want to like move somewhere that isn't as nice, but like kind of think that maybe I will have to, and that sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, I guess we'll see. I think like I want to frame it as like this could be an amazing way to, manifest our dream home. But then there's a voice in the back of my head like, be realistic, mate. Like, imagine like getting a lovely, standalone bungalow chalet. That would be amazing. I'll be like, yeah, that's like unicorn shit, like.
It's really it that is one of the frustrating things about being in a wheelchair is you just can't go anywhere or live anywhere. And so that kind of happened to me when we bought this house. Was our house that we were renting, the person that we were renting from, their house got foreclosed on. So they had stopped paying their mortgage and we were forced to move when the bank foreclosed on it. And so then we were looking for a house, but we had to do it like within 30 days. Like it was so stressful. And I just picked one of the house, like the house, it ended up being in a wonderful neighborhood. So I love my neighborhood, but my house is like really small. The bathrooms suck. Like I bang up all the walls, I wreck stuff. And it was totally just like what you're talking about. Like you just have to move somewhere that works, even if it's not really ideal. And so it was like, it's frustrating. And I've lived here for like, almost 13 years now. So I make it work, but it's fine. It's just not ideal. Like the garage isn't big enough for Joe to do his woodworking in. Like it's just, there's a lot of things that we've compromised on just because we couldn't find anything wheelchair accessible that was better than this. So we just had to live somewhere.
Mm.
And that's really frustrating because nobody wants to be like, well, I bought a house and it's kind of okay, but it's the best I could find for what my wheelchair would work with, right? And
Yeah.
I hope that doesn't happen to you, but if it does, then you'd be in the same boat as a lot of us and it just sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. Marco says, who's that Canadian country singer with a great voice? Brittney Noonzig, everybody.
It's like there's a lot of Canadian country singers with a great voice, so you're going to have to narrow that one down cuz we, have like 40 million people here, which is still kind of small, but
I'm just going through the questions. Marco says, I had 5K to spare. Good for you, Marco. If you got a little bit of spare cash, mate, over on the Patreon, join us.
oh my
And he said
god,
instead
that's
of donating to
amazing.
a big para foundation, he went to GoFundMe and donated to a story and a person who touched my soul directly. Now, that is very sweet of you, Marco. I
Wow.
appreciate
That
that, mate.
is really cool. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
This one, have you looked into the Alberta government's RAMP program? So the RAMP program is like a program where the government will fund home modifications, but I've never been able to qualify for the RAMP program because you have to be poor, really, really poor. And not that it's not like we're like super flush or anything, but Joe has always made too much money. And in Alberta, if you are married, your husband or if your wife or whatever, if you're a male with a disability, they're responsible for you, which is bullshit. It's such bullshit. So Joe became financially responsible for me because I am a dependent with a disability. The minute that we had a baby. And so
Really?
that's so messed up. Yeah. You lose your government funding if you get married. and the person that you're marrying has a job.
That sucks.
Yeah,
That
it's horrible.
sucks.
I never had government funding, but if you do have government funding for your disability, then you lose it, and the person that you are marrying becomes financially responsible for you, which is why it's bullshit. But the RAMP program, anyway, that's I have heard of it. It's just I don't qualify for it, so I can't modify my house with that.
I mean, I guess it's good if you are really poor.
It's good if you are poor because and it's not that much. Like it's $5,000 for home modifications, which might get you a few modifications, but it's not making your whole house wheelchair accessible. It might get you a ramp built or whatever, but yeah, it's annoyingly frustrating, but yeah.
Yeah.
And especially when the housing for like accessible housing is so small. Like in the area that I live in, it's supposed to they kind of committed to making sure that 10% of all
I can't hear
housing.
you. I
You
can't
can't
hear
hear
you.
me? Can anybody
I
else
think your
hear me?
connection's a little bit. Oh, yeah, there you go. You're back in the room.
Oh,
I think that was your connection. Yeah, it was just
it
went.
was me.
Sorry, repeat yourself, please.
It's I was just saying that accessible like the accessible housing is supposed to be 10% in my area, but it's more like 2%. Um
Uh,
and I don't really know why I was saying that. I just remember that's what I was saying, but oh, I was saying that the ramp program is not going to get you an accessible house for $5,000 if you buy one that's not accessible. So you'll have to buy an accessible or semi-accessible house, like a bungalow or something. But
oh, nice.
yeah,
All right,
uh,
cool. Well, if is there anything else you want to talk about before we wrap it up?
I don't think so. I had all the things on my list. I talked about all the things on my list. I'm just going through the comments to see if there's a question that is important to address. I'm not sure what this one is meaning, but what are your thoughts on the effects of AI on para empowerment? I'm not sure what he means by that, but like making it easier for people with disabilities to like access resources or like how empowering people how, but I'm not sure. So yeah, I don't
I
know if you
don't
want to
know.
clarify that,
I've
but
never heard of that.
yeah, I was like, I'm not sure what he means by that, but yeah, I don't think there's any more questions. I'm just going through the chats really quickly.
Cool.
Thank you guys for all the birthday wishes and for all the support on that, potential new job opportunity. Because it
Yeah.
would definitely take me away from YouTube probably for at least a while.
What sort
Oh,
of power add-ons would you recommend for first-time wheelchair users? I would probably say some sort of Batek thing, like or what do you call it? What's the thing that goes at the back? The
free. No,
uh,
no, hang on.
it's like
A
one's
smart
called a
drive.
smooth, a smart
Smart
drive or a
drive.
smooth. Yeah. Yeah, I think that they're pretty good. I don't have one, but I've got
Hmm.
like a bike. In fact, I don't know. It depends on your like. I like the bike is really really good because it gives you exercise, but it's a lot big. It's very very bulky, and it's not like it's like I can get it in and out the car, but and you can cycle places. But I think like having a little one that you could like boost around in. It depends on I guess what you want, but like yeah, I wanted the bike because I wanted to get out and exercise and build up a sweat, and it's actually something I'm really missing at the moment in the winter. But yeah, I guess there's so
Yeah.
many things. There's so many things available for like power add-ons. You could I don't know.
I think it depends on your level of injury. Like everybody's going to be different. And if you are a higher level of injury, you're going to need more power adaptive sort of devices than somebody who's a paraplegic. For a first time paraplegic, like wheelchair user, I would say nothing is necessary as an add on. Other than the things that make your life way easier if you live in an area that's really hard to wheel in and you want to maintain your ability to go outdoors and stuff like that. I have a cheap Batek type thing that's a scooter attachment to the front of my wheelchair
Mm.
that I got off of Amazon, and it was like $1,500 rather than $15,000, and it works pretty good. It
Oh
did
really?
break this summer. Yeah, the like connection thing broke, so I have to. It's not totally broken. It was just the thing that spins, so I have to somehow get another piece made that can spin and attach to the bolt. But yeah, I love this scooter attachment. It gets me anywhere I need to go when I'm camping or on rough ground, and it goes so fast. Like I think it goes like it's not crazy fast. Like I think it goes like
Yeah.
15,
Fast enough.
15, 15 kilometers per hour or 20 kilometers per hour or something like that, and it's pretty good.
Yeah. So I had to go on my friend Pete's when I went back to the UK, and he had souped his up to go like, I think it was like 40 miles an hour. Man, I got up to 20 and I was like, this is way fast enough. Like, I'm in a wheelchair,
Yeah.
like 40 miles an hour in a
Mhm.
wheelchair is very fast. I've done that
It's
40
very fast.
kilometers in a downhill on my bike, and even downhill, I'm like, this is ridiculous. I get really scared because the roads are like got a camber, to, obviously
Mhm.
for drainage. And
Yeah.
when you're on the camber, you're like, ooh, shit. You're like, man, you gotta
I
like
know.
wheel in the middle of the road, and then you're in the middle of the road. The traffic is like, where you in the middle, get to the side. I'm like, I'm not going on the side of. So that's
Yeah.
pretty crazy. I did have a go on Pete's, little twist and go, and that was really fun. In fact, Andrew, if you want to check out the podcast I did with Eric Kondo on my channel, it's called The Future of Wheelchairs or something like that. He's a really knowledgeable guy, and he makes all this cool stuff. So if you're on a budget, for example, he's got a group where they make scooters like that you can buy in, and they have a way that you can adapt it into a twist and go for your wheelchair for like a fraction of the price that these $8,000 Batex go for. And there's a cool little community over there. I think his website is called redpillinnovations.com, and
Mm.
he's got loads of cool things that you can DIY yourself, or if you've got an able-bodied friend who's into that sort of stuff, you should definitely check that out.
Cool. Yeah, I think there's lots of amazing things for people in wheelchairs. It's just always the cost. It's like,
Mm.
what is worth buying, and what do you have the money to buy? Like that's why I've never bought a Batec, because I like who has, especially here, they're like brand new. They're like 13, 14, 15,000 dollars. I'm just like, who
Yeah.
has that
When I
kind of
said
money?
dollars, I meant euros.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah.
here's a question for you, Britt, before we go. If you
Mhm.
had unlimited funds, what sort of wheelchair would you get, and what sort of like wheelchair add-ons would you get, and what sort of like wheelchair toys would you, splash out on?
If I had unlimited funds, I would
Hmm.
have a FES bike, which is like the
Oh,
bike
good one.
that
Yeah.
attaches electrodes to your legs and exercises your legs to maintain your muscle mass, because it keeps metabolic tissue, which is the thing that you need food to power so that you can eat more food and without gaining weight. It allows you to keep your bone density to a certain degree because your muscles pull on your bones and kind of signal that they need to keep calcium in them. So I think it's really good for those things. And then I would get a Baytech or Batech or something similar to it that's like got a hitch on it that you can just stick or connect to quickly, because my scooter attachment takes quite a while to put on and it's annoying. And a Batech or Baytech, it's easy to just hitch up to. So I'd get one of those. I'd get a like a mountain bike so that I could like an adaptive
Mm.
mountain bike so that I could go on trails and stuff. And then I would get something similar to a mountain bike, but that maybe isn't like a mountain bike. It's this, what is it called? I can't remember what it's called. It's like it's like an
Is it a
off-road.
bowhead?
Well, Bowhead is the mountain bike. So that's the mountain bike that I would get. But I'm trying to like think of the name of this other thing that I recently like spoke to the company about. It's called, just give me one sec. But I would get this thing. Actually, I don't know whether I would get it. I would try it because I haven't tried it, so I don't know whether it's like amazing or anything. But hang on, where is that thing?
The connection
I
on
can't.
my end is
Oh,
not very
oh,
good, but I
it's
think like I heard everything you said.
That's okay. It's called the Outrider. Outrider. So like something to go off-road kind of thing. But yeah, it's mostly just things that allow you to go faster.
Yeah.
Faster, easier
For,
move. But
yeah.
how about you?
For
What's
me,
your answer? Yeah.
mate, I'd get a bowhead for sure. I would fly to the US, and I would definitely get a hands-on concepts wheelchair. I think they are the absolute Rolls Royce of custom wheelchairs. And while I do agree with Eric Kondo about like what Eric Kondo's saying, the wheelchair companies make wheelchairs way too expensive. They don't need to be that expensive, blah, blah, blah. If I had unlimited funds, I would have a hands-on concepts wheelchair for sure. They are the absolute tits. In fact, I'd have two. Why not? Because, you know, you've got unlimited funds. They are amazing. And I'd have a bowhead, of course, because like they are the tits as well. I'd have two, like one that you can pedal and one that you can just twist and go. Yeah, I would have. I think that's about it. I mean, I'd probably have a little like twisty like Batek thing as well, but I'm pretty happy with the bike that I've got. But yeah, I'd have a bowhead and I'd have a hands-on concepts wheelchair. That's the dream. That would be the absolute dream for sure.
Have you tried a bowhead?
Say again?
Have you tried a bowhead?
I tried a bowhead. Sorry, the connection's not very good. I hope you can hear me okay, but I can't hear
I
you
can hear
very
you,
well.
yeah.
I tried one. Did I put a video online about it? Yeah, I tried one with the one that you can pedal. It was good. It was fun. I really enjoyed it, but I really think that the one that you can twist and go would be loads better. Like, and just like boost around and like go on downhill trails and stuff. I had a little go on one. And I did really, really enjoy it. I thought it was an absolutely fantastic bit of kit. The only problem with it that I saw logistically was like, where would I keep it? You know, I'd have to have a garage to keep it. I don't know how I'd get it in the car because it's enormous. You know, I don't know how I'd transport it places. So yeah, with the bike that I've got, you know, I keep it in the cupboard. It attaches to the wheelchair. You know, when you get somewhere, you can like disattach it from the wheelchair, so you're in your wheelchair. Whereas if you go somewhere in the bowhead, you're just in the bowhead.
You're just in the bowhead, yeah.
I saw some guy down the lake last summer, and he was just in the bowhead, and I was like, oh, it's not that bad. You know, if you go to the lake for a picnic, you just sit in the bowhead. You know, whatever. You know, it's kind of cool that you're out and stuff. And he was out mountain biking. And also the other thing that I've seen is I like to think of myself as quite an outgoing wheelchair dude who like does lots of things. And I see other wheelchair guys, like this particular guy, his name's Ollie Ingram. He actually really randomly sold me one of my old wheelchairs. He's doing loads. He's going skiing. He's got a baby. He does like mountain biking. He comes on holiday here. All these things terrify me. Imagine like getting on a plane, like with all your wheelchair stuff and your mountain bike and a baby. I'm like, I would just be like, oh, it sounds like I wouldn't bother. I'd just stay at home. Like, and I just feel like this guy's such an inspiration. I'd love to get him on the podcast, actually. Like, what an absolute legend. Like, I feel like those people that really push the limits, I feel like are so like, I feel like, wow, there's so many barriers to entry to do that. Like so many logistical things that you'd have to overcome. I would just probably just be like, oh, let's just stay at home, or like, let's have a holiday in the UK, you know, if I was in the UK. But like coming over with a wheelchair and a bowhead and a baby, Jesus, like, well done, bravo, my friend, you know, like.
Does he travel with the bowhead?
Yeah, I guess. Well, yeah, I guess so. I mean, he said it was his.
Wow. That's crazy. Interesting story. The guy who originally, like, he still owns the company and who made the bowhead, he lives about 2 hours from me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's a
Mate,
Canadian.
you should go visit him.
My friend works for him actually. She does like bowhead training camps and stuff. And so I've never met him in person, but my friend works for him, and so she talks about him a lot. But I did try the bowhead, and I have a really hard time with like when they remove the pin and it like actuates and it's tippy. It's scary, and so I don't know whether I might get better at it, but it's kind of scary. I don't know if you froze or
No.
you're frozen.
Oh, we're back in the room. Sorry.
You're back in the room.
My
That's
internet
okay.
is being rubbish right at the end
That's
of the podcast.
okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. I have to pee anyway, so we should probably sign off.
Yeah, but I really wanted to hear what you just said. Can you please say it again?
Oh,
Sorry.
I will. I was just saying that my friend who works for him, she did like a training camp up here, and I went to it, and it's scary because like when there's like a pin on the bow heads, so that when you remove the pin, it like actuates to go over uneven ground, but it also is really tippy. Like if you tip this way, the wheels will fold in on themselves. And so it was scary once you remove the pin, and I wouldn't go fast without the pin in. And so I don't know whether I'm like brave enough to do the real bow heading without the pin.
Oh, yeah.
But if you can do it, like I have a friend that a lot of my friends use them, and they can just go anywhere, and you learn it's just like riding a bike that you'll tip over on a bike. A bow
Yeah,
head's
yeah.
the same way. You have to have a level of balance, but yeah, it's just scary. It's scary.
That
But
sounds
in order
cool.
for if the pin's not out, the wheels won't move. Like if you're going
Yeah.
over rough ground, the wheel on this side will move up without making you tip, kind of thing.
Yeah, so I think that's why, because I tipped my bow head over when I
Yeah.
rode on it. I think I put a video on Instagram. I didn't put. I don't know if I put it on. Anyway, I made a little edit because I had my 360 camera. But like, yeah, they said, oh, if you take the pin out, you can lean more. But I never took the pin out, and that's why I think it tipped. But like, yeah, I would love to. Like, we had a day planned with my friend Pete in the UK to go and ride bow heads, but one of the guys let us down at the last minute, and I was really gutted about that. But yeah, I would love to do that. In fact, I know that we're getting right to the end of the podcast, but I was thinking recently about like I'd love to like work in an industry like for a company like Bowhead or some sort of
Yeah.
fun cool thing in the disability community. Like I said on that video that I missed out on the sit wake camp, and I just like I really feel like meaningful work like in the community would be something that would really like fill me up so much. I'd love that. So yeah, if anyone knows, like of any jobs going with like cool wheelchair companies, like oh, that would like be the dream. But
Yeah. It's very cool. My friend who was paralyzed and now works for Bowhead, she works for a couple different organizations. One is called Rocky Mountain Adaptive, and they do adaptive like trainings, and they rent out equipment for people that go to the mountains close to where I live. So she works for them and she works for Bowhead. And she got into it just because she wanted to do something useful. And she used to race motocross before she was paralyzed. So I think that would be right up your alley because you were sort of an adventure sport enthusiast before, and
mm,
that's what she was too. And yeah, that would be a very cool sort of avenue to go down if you could ever find anything like that.
I'd love that. I would absolutely
Mhm.
love that. Yeah, it would be cool. But yeah, you've planted the seed actually, like, or the seed has been planted during this conversation. I'd love to get that guy on the podcast because I think again, I'd love to ask him about like all the things that terrify me, like having a baby and then traveling with a baby and like still having a really cool active life, like where you ride bikes and go skiing, with your family and you fly in a plane and you don't have like this paralyzing fear of like it
Have
all
you
going
ever
tits up.
have you ever traveled like on a plane since
Yeah,
you've
I
been?
have, but
Oh,
like I remember think like, it's scary enough just going with your wheelchair. You hear such
yeah.
horror stories of like your chair getting damaged or something. But imagine traveling again, like I say, with a bowhead and a baby and a it would just be I don't know. I just feel like that's really cool that he hasn't let that stop him
Yeah.
because I feel like I do let the disability stop me from doing a lot of things. And um,
I'm
I
so
saw,
curious.
yeah, go
Oh, go
on.
ahead. No, you go ahead.
I saw. Do you remember I said at the backup podcast that I was advertising or like I was giving a shout out to a few weeks ago, uh, which I still think anyone should check out. Like it's all to do with traveling after injury. Sophie Elwes, she is the host of the podcast. I saw on Facebook the other day that she's going traveling for 4 months. She's going to like America, New York, Las Vegas, California, and then like off to other places like Vietnam and like all traveling around the world for 4 months. And I was like, oh
Wow.
my God, I did that like many years ago, not in a wheelchair, but it terrifies me doing stuff like that in a wheelchair now. I feel like my comfort zone, I like to think that my comfort zone's so much bigger than it is, but when I see other people, I realize how like sheltered I have made my life. And I would love to be confident and brave enough to do stuff like that, but I'm not. And I think
Me
a lot of
either.
other people are in the same boat, like,
It's not that and we would probably be fine. It's just all of the unknowns. And yeah, I have a friend that traveled in Europe for like 3 months by himself in a wheelchair. Like I just don't. I'm like, how did you get around and all the things? How'd you carry your bags and all that stuff? But yeah, and I travel by myself. I just have never traveled to anywhere that I had to worry about accessibility or anything like that. Yeah, I'm so
yeah.
curious about how that guy, if he does travel with his bowhead, because I talked to the company that owns that Outrider, which is like an off-roading sort of rig. And they said that they would give me one to review, but they are in North Carolina or somewhere. I can't remember. They're like it's down on like the southeast coast sort of the US, and I'm like way far away from that. So he's like, it's going to cost $3,000 to ship. So he's like, it probably won't make sense to get it to you. And he's like, if you can get down here, you can take it. But I was like, if you can fly with it, if you can fly with
Yeah.
something that's considered a bike or whatever, then I'm like, maybe I can go down there and get it. But I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
so
these
curious
are
now.
questions I would love to ask him.
Yeah,
I need to
ask
message
him.
him. I'll
You
message
should
him and
message him.
see if he's up for it. Um, yeah, what else was I going to say? Something else. Oh yeah, about just being brave enough to travel and stuff. Like one of the questions immediately springs to mind is like when I go to the UK for a week, I take 40 catheters with me. You know, like how are you going to travel for 4 months? Like how where are you going? Is your bag just packed full of catheters? Like what the
Mhm.
hell? Like how are you going to do that? Like all of these things. I get that you could probably have an indwelling catheter. You're going to have an indwelling catheter the entire time you're away. Like what are the logistical things about? Yeah, it's just scary and I applaud people. I feel like that's really cool. A lot of people look at me as like some sort of inspirational wheelchair guy, and I'm like, no way. Like these guys are super inspirational because they inspire me, and so yeah, I feel like I don't do that much at all.
I feel like everybody is an inspiration to somebody. Like you're farther along in your journey than, somebody who's newly injured. I'm farther along in my journey than somebody who's newly injured. And there's people just in general that do way more shit adventure wise than other people. And that doesn't make them more valuable or less valuable. There's some people who read 300 books in a year and, I couldn't do that. And then somebody who can travel the world without being afraid, and other people who do other things. So I don't think we need to like worry about what we're not doing as much as what we are doing and what we want to do. But it is kind of like when you see people doing all that crazy shit, you're like, wow, like, should I be doing that? That's the stuff that goes through my head is I'm just like, should I be doing that? And then I don't know what the answer is, but
Yeah, like, well, I want to do that. I don't, well, maybe I don't want to do that, but I don't want to be scared of doing that. I don't want
exactly.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
like
huge one.
I'm scared of going outside when it snows. This guy went on holiday, skiing with a baby in the wintertime. Like, how is he like just like yeah, whatever. How is he not like paralyzed with fear? Like some people are so brave, and I feel like I used to be so fearless before my accident. I traveled all over the world before my accident, and I'm very lucky to have had that experience. But ever since my accident, I'm like terrified to do, like I say, even in the wintertime, I'm scared to go outside, and it's bullshit.
It's bullshit. I have to say, when I was looking at your 6-year video or whatever, not that you weren't great looking before, but you look really great now. So I don't know if it's just that you're like, you've cleaned up your beard a little bit, you're like a little bit trimmer, or maybe you just look happier and more content. Because in some of those older videos that you had little clips of B-roll in, like you were obviously newly injured and just looked a little gruff. It's like the word that I thought, but I'm like, you look so great now.
Yeah, do you know what? Actually, loads of people said that. A few of my old friends messaged me and said, "Mate, what's your secret? It's like Benjamin Button. It's like you're aging backwards." And I was like, "Well, thanks. That's a really kind compliment. I guess I guess you get in good shape. I guess I did trim my beard a little bit, and yeah. And also I've given up drinking and smoking for 5 6 years now, and that
That
is
helps.
that helps. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what the secret is, but giving up drinking and smoking probably.
Maybe, yeah. It's a good thing though if you look better now than you did 5 years ago. So,
Definitely a good thing.
yeah.
I guess the secret is don't drink and smoke, and then keep fit and eat healthy,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
then yeah, I guess like that guy Brian Johnson. You know him? He's like trying to live forever. He looks super young, and he's old as fuck. So,
No, I don't even know who that is, but now I'm going to Google it.
oh yeah, Google Brian Johnson. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, cheers,
Interesting.
man. Look at this guy, Marco. When you
I
took your
thought
shirt
that
off,
too.
you're actually ripped. That was sick to see. I appreciate that. That's so funny how a lot of people said that, but I was actually a little bit self-conscious of like not being that ripped. Like I guess it's
Oh, no, you look great.
like body dysmorphia. You're like, well, yeah, I could be more ripped. And I
Yeah.
sent the video to Benji like about 3 months ago, and he was like, dude, you are so insanely ripped. And I was like, well, I don't know. I think, it's so weird how, yeah, you get more in shape and then you become more critical of your physique. But yeah, I guess I'm in pretty good shape. So that was a very kind compliment. Thank you, Marco.
No, you're in amazing shape. I was like, I said that because I definitely like I'm paralyzed from the chest down. So my belly, when I'm not like, it's not like giant, but it's flabby. Like I don't have that ability to like, flex or anything. So I'm always self-conscious about that. But and some days, like if I'm like really bloated, I literally like my belly is so big because it's like I don't have the ability to like pull my muscles in. So then it's like I'm so self-conscious about it. But I envy the people who can like still have their like muscles and flex their stomach because it looks good.
Thank you. That's very kind.
Oh, and then this guy goes, and then you have noodle legs. Ha ha ha. It's
well,
actually kind of
actually,
true. Yeah, your legs are pretty decent.
Yeah, my legs don't look paralyzed, and it's because of the spasms. I guess the
Yeah.
gift and the curse of the spasms is that they have maintained a lot of muscle mass. The curse of the spasms, obviously, they're fucking torturous. But yeah, they don't look. But sometimes
Yeah.
I wish they were, just to be like, oh my goodness, that would be. But then you've got
I don't
pressure
think,
sores,
yeah.
muscle atrophy, bone density. So I guess this is probably preferable. I just hate wrestling with them.
Yeah. I think it's preferable. I have a friend that has zero spasticity because she is paralyzed really low and all of the nerves coming out of her spinal cord were damaged. So her legs have no like innervation at all, no reflexes, no anything. And she's broken so many bones.
Oh
Like
yeah,
it's crazy. And her legs are like, it's like crazy how skinny her legs are. Like it's
noodles.
crazy. It's literally noodles. And it's so weird like when like people have like zero muscle mass whatsoever. So I think it's probably preferable because you have really good muscle tone on your legs still. So it's just
Oh,
annoying when you're fighting with the assholes every day.
I'm getting loads of compliments here. Oh, from you and the comments section. Thank you very
That's
much.
funny.
I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. Right, on that note, you're making me blush. Let's get out of here. We both need wheeze. Let's bounce. Happy birthday, Brittney.
Thank
And
you.
anything you want to say before we head off?
No, just if you want to go to my Patreon, I'll post that video of me and my siblings singing at my grandma's funeral, so you can check that out. And I'm hoping to get some regular scheduled content out this week and kind of clip along that way. And I'll keep you guys posted about the job. And yeah, I'll let you guys know what goes on with that. But yeah, thank you guys for all the birthday wishes.
See you next week, everyone.
Okay, bye guys.
Bye.